Hey guys, if you want to listen to this show ad-free, head over to our Patreon where you'll get access to this show plus our brand new exclusive Patreon show, Double Take.
There's also, you can join the Discord, you can get bonus content, get your email read out on the show. There's loads of stuff there. Please come join us via the link below.
What a night it was.
What a night. 2 nights, both nights. Great nights.
Last week we had the quiz.
The pub quiz.
It was fantastic. George is now sick.
I am sick.
Be gentle with him.
I am poorly today, guys.
He's just done an episode of Double Take and he was great. I worry your energy expenditure, you sort of got a bit excited there, and now you've borrowed from Pulp Kitchen. I believe in you.
I've just replenished with a homemade burrito off camera, and I'm hoping that, like Mario, does Mario eat things when he jumps?
Mushrooms.
Right, there you go. I did not have any mushrooms, but I'm hoping, like Mario, I can
stars, flowers,
bounce back into this.
You want a star, because when he gets the star, the music goes and he's invincible and he can just run through.
Well, that's what I want. I want a star.
Whereas a mushroom will make you bigger, bloated, trippy even. You don't.
No. I don't need that.
You don't want to take a journey down a pipe into another section of the level.
I have been in bed the past 2 days. Full disclosure, I'm not well, but I'm here for you because the one thing we couldn't do is break the streak.
Never
break the streak.
From when it just has happened. But like basically, our approach.
I don't think we've broken. We haven't broken a streak. We haven't broken the streak basically since the beginning.
Basically
since the beginning. Yeah, basically since the beginning.
Yeah,
over 2 years.
Yeah,
it's been an unbroken. Every week we've had content, and we want to keep it that way.
I had some friends of ours who also do podcasts be like, "So you guys do it every week?" And I was like, "Yeah," and they were like, "How does that work?" Like,
it works.
It's a lot of work, and I was like, "Yeah." I don't have anything more to say apart from acknowledging it's a shitload of work. So what happens when you go away? I'm like, we do 2 in a day, or we do 2 in a week.
Oh, it's focused.
It's
focused.
It's there. I said, George, we need to get him the stuff they've had Biden on right before he clocked out.
Yeah, just sort of
just before he comes off the plane, just whack him in the butt with a needle.
That's what I need. Give me the it's focused.
It was okay.
The quiz was folks. The quiz was anyway. Political. Not the time for that now. Let's talk about the quiz.
The quiz. Guys, if you didn't know, we did our Pulp Kitchen pub quiz. We did 2 nights in central London. It was all over our social media. I had such an incredible time both nights. You guys are just
amazing.
The best.
I
cannot tell you how much it meant the world to both of us to just meet you guys. You're all just lovely, nice people. I loved going around to each table and saying hi to everyone.
Highlight of the evening.
It was so, honestly, like quiz, whatever, just going around and saying hi to people and people saying nice things to both of us is just really, really sweet. People asking me film questions as well.
Which is always nice.
Catch the life thing, I was a bit thrown. I was like, oh, yeah, of course. I mean,
I've got you.
Inner Violent Nature was interesting. Yeah. But, like straight back into it.
What I like is, and I said this to a few people, is that we put out the show and have put it out for 2.5 years on the internet, online, which is ephemeral, intangible. And then when it converts to real life events, whether it's a press screening or something, or actually something important like this, like meeting actual listeners face to face, that really makes the difference. And that's really great.
I'm also really glad that before we did live quizzes, my mind's eye of who our listener was is quite true to who they are in real life. And I'm really pleased that my visual representation of you is true, and you are just lovely people that I could imagine being friends with and talking about films with down the pub. Really, really nice.
And thank you very much for your compliments. And there was a lot of people there who I recognized their names from the emails, and
some people I didn't recognize in face. They were like, "Oh, I'm this," and I was like, "Oh, of course, you're that person."
And one guy came, I think his name was Ollie. It was Ollie, that's right. Who came in 3rd place on the first night. Was like, "Oh, I'm a regular listener," and I actually emailed him once. We were like, "Okay," and he was like, "Yeah, I emailed him last year about this point." And we were like, "Oh yeah," we were just in the data file.
We remember you. Send in the emails.
So obviously we know that most obviously percentage-wise, people listening weren't at the quiz. I know it's in London and it's on a specific time and day, but
we did do it bigger. And
we did do it bigger. But those who were there, thank you very much, and it's a huge support for us and a huge morale boost, and just it made us really feel like we're doing the right thing, and like we want to keep making these. So
also, like, for my own ego, my mates who came, we both had friends on each of the nights. They were sort of looking around being like, "Mate, you sold this out 2 nights." And I was like, "It's cool, isn't it?"
Cool.
Like, that's really impressive. Which made me feel really good.
I had my old
validation.
I invited my colleagues from the job I left in
Yes.
January, and they had a great time. Did terribly in the quiz. Did absolutely terribly. But like, great to have them there. They were very impressed and said some really nice things. I'm like, yeah. And they were like, who else do you know here? And I was like, well, there's some industry friends over there, and there's some people we've invited here, some friends here, and the rest are listeners, the rest are fans. And it was wonderful.
Some people were like, you should do this every month. And I was like, I have to do tomorrow.
Yeah, I have to think about, so many things. But
Takeaways, we loved it. We will do more.
We'll do more.
In what capacity remains to be seen. But everyone was asking me at the quiz, when are you going to do another one? I said, I'm not announcing, but I would like to say towards the end of the year, we will be doing one.
Mr. Briefle, are you running in 2024? I'm not announcing anything. I'm just here with the people say.
I was just saying, we've talked about doing one November, Christmas time, but like we did last year. So
it was the best feeling is watching your faces when you read out the answer to the question and people go, oh no, or they go, oh yes, I fucking said that.
Yeah. It's a hard quiz. And some people were saying, oh, it's really hard. And I'm like, well, yes, it's hard because you're all film nerds.
Yeah.
It's a room of people coming for a dedicated film quiz. We have to make it challenging. When you look at the scores, interestingly, the team who won on the Thursday versus the Wednesday, there was a 20-point gap between the winners of each night, which I thought was very interesting. Shout out to it's a 5 on film. Paul Curry and the gang. They were relentless.
I mean, unbelievable.
Really good.
But also, I actually found that the people who said it was hard, it was the actual regular listeners. They were they could follow it. I think it was like my friends who'd come who were like, "Oh, this is a bit difficult." I'm like, "Well, you're not the core audience, my friends.
We're not here for you."
So it was a real highlight, an absolute highlight. And do not take my calm disposition at the moment for lack of enthusiasm. Yeah. It's my illness pulling me down. I did really enjoy it.
There are a number of times me and George, like in between rounds, were just on the stage, like looking around, being like, "This is really cool. This is really fun.
It was lovely.
It's good fun. I like that. I really enjoy doing them as well.
I mean, it's nice to actually do something useful with the film knowledge in our head. I know that we do that technically by doing this show anyway, but it's nice to be able to be like, that random bit of information I learned, let me put it into a quiz. Yeah. And you can win some prizes.
That thing from that film, only I noticed. Let's see how many others notice it. It's a good feeling. It's fun.
So thank you so much. And that brings us to episode 140 of Pulp Kitchen. Wow. Look at that, 140. It's mad because for me, half of 140 is 70, but episode 70 feels recent.
It was like 3 months ago, right?
Yeah. No, but it wasn't. It was 70 weeks ago.
Wow. What did we do on episode 40? That's the question.
Episode 40, that's 2022. That would have been, I don't know,
August 22.
Yeah.
Was it? No.
Who knows? It probably was like that Andrew Garfield She-Hulk episode. Probably was
one of my favourite episodes ever.
Or maybe, goodness, who knows? But 140, thank you for joining us. If you're a new listener, thank you for coming. If you're regular listeners, welcome back. It's great to have you. It's August, and I will say that we notice this every year, but in doing this regularly, frequently every week, we notice the sort of trends of the seasons. And August is a slower month, a quieter month for movies.
You've got your tentpole summer films, like your Deadpool, Wolverines, and then it tends to sort of quiet out. And also the week after, no one's going near Deadpool because that's, if you've been following the news, you massive box office
smaller films like the new M. Night Shyamalan films, but usually you get the kind of slightly iffy films that the studio kind of dumps in August, which they just put there they think, well, that's for the films that people who have already gone to see Deadpool, Wolverine twice, but they still need to do something with their kids.
Harold and the Purple Crayon.
Harold and the Purple Crayon, indeed.
When me and George went to go see Inside Out 2, we saw a load of trailers for just like kids' films we'd otherwise been exposed to. And we were both just laughing at Harold and the Purple Crayon, which I hear is not only terrible, but it's massively flopped.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, what about Gary and the green umbilical cord? I was just saying,
Gary and the green.
What was I thinking of? Quill. Why did my brain go to umbilical cord? Guys, I have real fog brain today. Please,
bear with George. He's doing great.
Did you have what we talked about?
I did. I just wanted to. What?
I thought you were looking at what we talked about in episode 40.
Oh, no.
What do you have?
Different. I was going to say, so separately, John or Yon sent to comment. I think just John. John commented on one of our videos. I thought we would just clarify in case new listeners didn't know how the exchange of press coverage, interviews, access worked. John comments and says, "Love the pod, but when you get invited to premieres or to interview cast, is there an implicit agreement for favourable coverage?" And I thought we'd just clarifying this, seeing as like we do give our honest opinion on films, we do review films every single week or TV shows, and I thought it'd be good to just explain how that agreement works and what that is.
Logical question. But the answer, short answer is no. It doesn't mean favourable coverage at all. It's no different. It's just because we have a big profile, well, big profile. Our attending those events are just simply to raise profile for the film. It's similar to
they
marketing.
just want to get as many impressions, literal impressions.
Yeah,
as
they want to get
possible on
exposure. The fact that we will then go on and review the film is kind of by the by, but there's never any implicit or explicit asking for coverage.
They definitely don't invite anyone.
Yeah.
I reckon they want to reflect the film in the best light, so the people who are best to cover that. If it is a good film, I think they'll line that up accordingly.
And the same thing with like, with like interviewing people for press junkets. You got to. The way I think about it is in older media terms. Is like take like Empire Magazine. Empire Magazine would do set visits and interview the cast of a certain film. But in the same magazine, you would also find a review of that film, and in the same magazine, you would also find an advert for that film. It's just the different departments, and that's kind of what we cover here. It's like we will always still want to go and talk to people about stuff, but like our review, our opinion about it.
So we got to go to a really cool Curzon Mayfair premiere of The Bike Riders, when we were given a red carpet treatment, basically, right? Which is really cool, and it's access, and it gives us anecdotes. We get to see the film up to like a week earlier,
and on our social platforms, people see us and it looks fantastic, and it glamorizes, and people go, "Oh wow, that new movie with Tom Hardy! Oh, they were there and they saw the thing."
But at the very end of the day, we are not going to sort of change our opinion. You are very happy to take our opinion with a pinch of salt if you think that us being invited changes that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we are declaring that we were invited. We usually, when we talk about reviews, we'll mention the premiere because it's quite fun to talk about, you peeing next to Tom Hardy. That's just quite a good, fun thing to do. But I'd say as a general rule, we'll always declare something that's branded.
Yeah.
I can't see us taking money to review anything favourite. It's really not what we are interested in doing.
I also don't think it's...
It doesn't really happen.
I don't think it happens because I don't know if it's illegal, but it's like I just think it's like completely unethical. Like I don't think any journalist would ever do
The only
that.
thing I could imagine doing, which again I still think it would just be an access thing, whereas if a really big film wanted to take time out of our day to go to an experience to cover something in relation to the film, we might be paid for our rate to produce a video, but it will never be to sort of with some sort of subclause. You must therefore say you loved Deadpool and Wolverine. That's just not really what we're going to do. We're always. I'm interested in having a podcast where we hear from people who like or dislike the film. George and I talk to each other about what we dislike and like a film, and that's the show.
So it just operates on that kind of implicit collaboration, really, where the marketing people are like, well, we get free marketing because we invite you and you point about it, you publish it on your thing, and you get to look cool on a red carpet, and you get to see the film if you want to review it. So
it's just about looking cool. That's it. But I just thought I'd clarify in case people didn't know.
So if you ever see
our opinions are our own.
If you see us doing a junket for a film and then absolutely slamming it in a review afterwards, that's not because we've been dishonest. It's because, even if we've seen a bad film, we still might want to talk to we still would love to have the opportunity to talk to the filmmakers and the creators behind it. This episode 140 Pulp Kitchen is going to be a little different. Hey, because it's August, let's change things up a bit. This is going to be a TV-focused episode because, we do cover a bit of TV, and as we've talked about many times, the boundary between film and TV has shifted so much. So 2 high-profile, high-budget, prestigious TV shows to talk about, which are basically movies, which is House of the Dragon Season 2 and The Bear Season 3. We will be talking about them in non-spoiler terms. I think we might... The thing is, when you talk about the most recent series of a show, is we might have to broadly say where the characters are at the beginning of the season, which implicitly slightly spoils what happened in the previous season. But if
always the numbered episodes are spoiler free, but sort of common sense and caveat that in order to talk about it,
in the same way that in order to talk about the sequel to the first film, you would have to talk about what happened in the first film.
There are still dragons, guys.
Still dragons.
If you thought they all died at the end of season 1, spoilers. No, they're around.
Did you think they all died at the end of season 1?
No, I'm saying.
If one
the basest level of information.
You were really surprised then. You're like, well, they're everywhere.
We got loads.
So we'll be doing that, and then we got some emails, and then if I make it to the end, we've got a game.
And guys, don't forget, we just recorded our latest episode of Double Take, which is our Patreon exclusive show. It's a really great bonus show we only do on that platform. We just recently did a conversation about a sneak peek ahead of The Last of Us Season 2. Mostly my thoughts on it and whether or not what the sentiment's going to be like on it, what it's revealed about the structure of Season 2. We also talked about films George watched when he was sick.
Yes.
Actually gave some good insight on 2 of them.
Alien and Shawshank Redemption. and we also talked about Deadpool Wolverine, all the money it's made,
making loads of
and
money.
Roadhouse, the continuing battle between
Doug
behind
Liman
scenes,
versus Amazon.
Doug Liman versus Amazon.
So go and check that
Oh,
out.
and also speaking of our, editorial coverage and access to events, we talked about how press junkets actually work and the process of how it operates and like how we go about doing that, which was quite fun. It was a longer one this week.
Double take. Really enjoying those. And guys, I'm also experimenting with. So obviously that show is available on Patreon for those of you that want to do it there. Within Spotify, and also I'm going to look into YouTube, there is a subscription whole side of it. So if you guys really like the idea of Double Take, but you just haven't made it over to Patreon and you want to keep all things on one app and you're listening on Spotify, we're going to start putting out Double Take on Spotify so it's available in the feed. And if you want to watch it, you can subscribe at the same tier it is on Patreon and have access to it there. It's just so we can make this as available as it can be to you guys. Bear with us if it's not quite working yet. All of these things I have to basically wait to put an episode out. But I might experiment by putting last week's Double Take on, seeing if that works, then putting this week on, and we'll just let us know if that works for you guys and where you'd rather listen.
And of course, when we talk about Patreon, we couldn't talk about it without thanking our producers, Aidan and Finn. Aidan, it was wonderful to meet you in person at the quiz as well.
Oh, that's great.
Finn, I hope we get the opportunity to meet you in person as well. But Aidan, I think I did a very sort of House of the Dragon bow. I think I kneeled at your feet when you declared yourself to be a producer, and I said thank you for pledging. I pledged my vow to you.
I like to think he was just smoking a cigar at the back, being like, "Look at my boys."
Yeah, look at them.
You know these guys?
Yeah, they're my boys.
They work for me.
I own your ass.
Yeah, I own your ass. I met a couple of VIPs as well.
Yeah, that was wonderful, and I just also want to thank people who are on the Discord at the moment.
Yes,
you guys are flourishing. Every time we go in to sort of like contribute, the conversation has moved on tenfold. I love it. And we get a couple of Discord contributors the other night, Harry and other people. Like, great, I love that. I love this community we're building. You're lovely people. It's great, and I can picture you and feel you now.
Yeah, I now can picture you in my mind.
Yes, I know what your hugs feel like. Your handshakes.
Yeah,
your musk. Anyway, should we get on with some TV?
Let's do it.
So let's do The Bear season 3, which I cannot believe there's a third season already. I know it's standard for a show to bring out a season every year, but in the time between the first and second seasons of House of the Dragon, we've had 3 seasons of The Bear.
Crazy, isn't
it? And what I find mad is that The Bear first came out, I think, in like autumn 2022, and had a massive. You watched it. You reviewed it first.
I really liked
watched it before me, and it got a lot of buzz and a lot of sort of pickup. And then it comes back 9 months later, hugely quick turnaround with season 2, which massively pushes that further, but still becomes a great hit. And it garners loads of awards, and it's kind of become now the fashionable favourite show on TV.
Producers are like line cooks, just whipping it out. Order up! I got 2 seasons, 3 seasons of The Bear.
And it definitely feels like it's replaced Succession as the cool favourite show to have on TV. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm watching The Bear. Oh, you love that. I love The Bear.
Have you seen The Bear?
You've seen The Bear. Love that. Yeah. And then it's back again, just shy of 12 months later, but with a writer's strike in between. And I think that's quite key, actually. And my sort of journey with The Bear is this: you saw it first, then I caught up, and then I caught season 2.
I'm still waiting.
No, it's fine. Well, let's see what you think at the end of my review.
Yeah.
I
can tell you're prepping up for something a little bit disappointing.
So my thing with The Bear is this: is that I've always thought that some people are pouring like 5-star praise, and I've always thought The Bear is a good show, a solid show, with great, exceptional moments. And that was none more true than in season 2, which was, very good, but had absolute standout episodes. And I talked about that at the end of last year, about how individual episodes were really, really strong. But that was always it for me. Some people were really falling over themselves. I thought, yeah, it's good, it's solid with great moments. Anyway, for those, who aren't aware, The Bear, which initially was about a fine dining, I don't know if he's actually got a Michelin star, but high achieving chef called Kami, who returns to Chicago to run his brother's street food sandwich shop, which is in complete disarray after his brother's death. And it is this wonderful concept of chalk and cheese of this, precise and disciplined fine dining, gastronomic chef coming into a world of street food. And geez,
my God,
my goodness, what a motorbike!
What a motorbike!
What a motorbike that was!
Sound less like a bike rider.
Yeah.
What a motorbike!
What a vehicle! And it was this great concept, though. You had, well, I didn't know what to say because it wasn't a siren. So you had this concept which really worked, which is that Kami elevated the restaurant and the people around him by bringing in this discipline and this level of sophistication and standard. But simultaneously, the grittiness and the groundedness of the people he was working with and the street food that he was doing grounded him. And it was this nice balance. And it was like frenetic and energetic, exciting, quite funny at times, but also quite blistering and exhausting. Anyway, and it built to this finale, which bizarrely changed things for season 2. Season 2, again, just a little bit of a recap. I'm not going to go into deep spoiler details if you haven't seen these ones, but just explaining what happened is, so at the end of season 1, they decide to close the Bear, the sandwich shop. And at the beginning of season 2, they are deciding to follow Kami's vision and make it a fine dining restaurant, okay? Which, in hindsight, I think was actually quite a strange thing to do so early in the season. Because I'll come to this later, but there are a few moments in season 3 where I thought I really missed that concept of a man who is a fine dining chef in the street food world. Because I like the idea of rediscovering your joy of food through the simplicity of just like... Yeah, what do you mean?
Like the film Chef.
Like the film Chef, like even in the menu, the whole thing about Ray Fiennes' character is that he misses the simplicity of the hamburger, right? Sure. And they move away from that season 2, but it worked because they, through really good writing, they invested in their characters and they invested in the actors as well. And you had these break-off episodes with Richie and with Marcus that really worked well. And then it built to the end of season 2 where they open... at the end of season 2, The Bear, which is now the fine dining restaurant. They still keep the sandwich stuff as a side hatch at the side for the regulars. And that's how season 2 ends, with the opening of the fine dining restaurant and all the drama and the trauma that comes with it. So season 3 begins with them now open, running this fine dining restaurant, but carrying a lot of the scars and the things from before. Before I watched season 3, I was aware of some sort of mixed reviews going around about The Bear. And my initial feeling was, I'm wondering if this is people just seeing it for the show that I've always thought it was, and I'm wondering if I'm going to find it fine, okay? Anyway, I finished it last night, and you know what, it's really weird. It's like, it completely falls on its ass in this season. And I got to the end of the run of 10 episodes, and it had me asking two very dangerous questions, which is, why am I watching this? And what is this show anymore? And I have a very sad feeling that I think they've brought this out way too quickly, and that I know shows often come out yearly, but I think with the amount of attention that is on this show, the amount of success that it's had, and the amount of dramatic material they've burnt through in 2 seasons, I would have loved it if they'd just taken a beat, because I think with this season, there's half a season's worth of content stretched over 10 episodes. And it's really sad. So it's funny when I was thinking about whether or not this is going to spoil things for you or whatever. There's really very little to spoil in season 2. This is one of the big problems. Nothing happens. Annoying. There's almost nothing of consequence.
Outside of like worrying about losing your stars to bigger projects like Jeremy Allen White and Io Tabiri, what is the reason to massively rush these things? I know, they want content on their network.
That's the thing. So it's an FX show that's obviously then put on Disney Plus, and I don't know. My only thing could be that they think, we've got a hit. We've got to keep going with this. And
because 7 to 10 episodes? How many?
It's 10 episodes each time. 10 episodes each time.
It's
usually half an hour, sometimes 44 minutes.
Yeah, that's 2 to 3 month filming commitment, and then the same again, if not longer, in the edit. It's like they get it out and it's straight back.
So my thing is, not only have they got the pressure, because they did phenomenally well at the Emmys, and all this pressure on. Not only is that actually to build on that pressure, but you've also got the writer's strike in between. And I have a really bad... I couldn't find any evidence of it online, but I have a feeling that really disrupted things, and they decided to power through. But a lot of it feels unfinished, ideas unexplored, and just sort of there on screen, just sort of exists. And
we did say when this writer's strike was happening is that the tragedy is not things getting delayed, right? The tragedy
the quality
is in a year or two's time, you're going to notice bad seasons of TV, bad movies, etc.
I mean, what's this? So first of all, there are moments that work in this series. I actually really like the first episode of this season is like a montage that plays over this loop of this Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross sound that loops like the last 5 years of Kami's life, back and forth, and it kind of says everything you've done in your life has got you to this point, and it fills in all the gaps. And then, we get a little bit more of, in season 2 we had brief moments of Olivia Colman and Will Poulter. You get a bit more of that involved. And that's really great, filling in some blanks about the characters so far. I quite like that. There's another later episode which is just about Tina and how she came to work there. And then there's another episode with Sugar and Jamie Lee Curtis, which is just this really nice mother-daughter dynamic. And that's great. But the rest of it is so mopey, so dreary, so everyone in it is depressed and unhappy, and that's fine. You can do that with your characters, but nothing changes. And Kami begins this series at the same point as he finishes it. There's no change with him. And there's this sort of hangover with this relationship that he had in season 2 with this woman, which I never thought worked. I didn't think it was. I think they with this woman called Claire, and I thought that they really overstated that relationship in season 2. It really felt like a plot device to me. And in this time, it just felt like they never really solved it. They were really kind of wringing the emotional towel out of it. And I thought, enough already. I also have a bit of an issue with Kami as a character, because the writing isn't there to support. This is the thing now, because the writing isn't there to support the characters. What happens is characters either sort of fade away and become a little bit blurry, which is a shame when you had such sharply drawn people. Like Richie in this season is becoming a little bit vaguer than I had him in the previous one. But Kami as a character, I've realised this over 3 seasons now. My issue with him is that he is completely humorless as a person. Sure. Now, I'm not saying he needs to be cracking jokes or laughing all the time. And I understand that you have this contrast where he is surrounded by people who are broken, damaged, crazy, and like Richie cracking jokes all the time, but there's also a lot of trauma there. He's very stoic, calm, well, not calm, but stoic, fixed in the middle, serious.
He also looks exhausted all the time.
And exhausted the whole time. But I'm sorry, there's just something fundamentally not human about people who don't. I think it's a misunderstanding of how people are.
Now it's been 3 seasons.
Now it's been 3 seasons to not have someone who cracks a joke or anything. And that's why I think I didn't believe in the chemistry with him and this relationship that you had with this character Claire. Because I'm like, there's no charm here because you have no sense of humour.
One-dimensional.
Honestly, and I'm actually getting very, very bored of watching Jeremy Allen White stare into the middle distance, chew some gum and go, yeah, okay, chef, yeah. We'll do it. Yeah, and I'm sorry.
Implying depth without it being there.
It's really uncharismatic. I think Ayo Debris is given nothing to do in this series. Another thing that bothers me is that you can tell that it started to the pressure or the spotlight of being the biggest show on TV, or one of the biggest shows, one of the hit shows on TV, starting to get to, because they start to bring in more and more actor cameos that I just don't think make sense. So minor spoiler here, but it really doesn't spoil that much, is that there's a scene. Whereas in season 2 you had that wonderful episode where you get Bob Odenkirk and Jamie Lee Curtis and Sarah Paulson, that completely works. And Jamie Lee Curtis is fantastic again in this, and they were always going to have a mother, that makes sense. But there's these side characters called the Facts in it who are very funny, kind of comic relief. And then one episode they're just like, oh yeah, my brother's coming. And I'm like, they've never mentioned a brother before, I don't think. Like, oh yeah, Big Brother's coming. And the brother walks in and it's John Cena. And I'm like, what?
It's because it's the trendy show.
Exactly, that's my point. But I'm like, John Cena? It completely took me out of it. I'm like, there's no way. He's good in it. But I'm like, what are you doing here, John Cena?
It's like in Extras when Chris Martin turns. I was like, what, Chris Martin? Yeah. What are you doing in a factory in Reading?
And I'm like,
I'm
sorry.
promoting my new album, Greatest Hits Coldplay.
And that really threw me off.
Because it's popular with celebrities, and celebrities and agents talk like, oh, I'm friends with John Cena. We can get him. He loves the show. He loves the show.
They did it with Olivia Colman and they did it with Will Poulter. That's fine. But John Cena just threw me out of it. And it builds to this point, the final episode, I was like, I cannot believe this is the end of the season. I cannot believe you've wasted this much time to arrive at this point. And fundamentally, I think what I loved about The Bear originally, or what I found interesting, was it was about how it had this kind of warm heart to it. Underneath all the crazy, gritty swearing and shouting, it had this warm heart which said that despite your background, despite your education, if you're given the right circumstance and the right support, you can actually flourish. And we've seen people kind of grow and develop. There's none of that warmth in this. What you get, the series sort of builds to a conclusion where it's like they bring in lots of very famous real-world chefs, and it's like all about, they gather for a certain event. And it's like, oh, here are all these real-life chefs talking about the importance of this and talking about fine dining. And I was just like, I'm sorry, this isn't interesting. I'm sorry, I I don't think I don't find as an audience member fine dining as interesting because it's not as relatable. I find the street food stuff really interesting. But you talking to me about how this wonderful fine a restaurant that most of us will, if we're lucky, go to once in our lives.
Yeah.
I don't find it very interesting to be talking about the wonderful. And of course, when in my restaurant we do this, and the series itself has become the cliche of fine dining, which is pretentious and serves very tiny portions, okay? So that's what you're getting from this show. You're getting a huge 10 seasons plate, but the actual morsels of goodness are few and far between.
Lots of foam.
Literally, it's foam, it's puree, it's been spread out too thin.
Parsnip foam.
It's and it's a real shame because I think it's lost its heart. It's not completely lost its identity, and it ends, sure enough, to show this sort of cluelessness, and it ends on a "to be continued." And I go, what to be continued? You could have resolved
Delivered
all of
me
this.
something this season, yeah.
And it's a shame because I thought after season 2, I thought, is this show actually going to build into something that I really enjoy? But now I kind of feel like I've always been sort of right about the bear, and maybe worse now. I don't know where it's going. I couldn't recommend it. It's really frustrating. Sorry, it's really frustrating. Moments of goodness in it, but disappointing.
That's such a shame, and I could kind of sense without having watched it or really engaged with it. But like obviously seasons 1 and 2 were so highly regarded, and it was that this is a new show. There was a sense of urgency to tell people it's actually quite good, and then that effect falling off a cliff for me was quite telling that season 3 wasn't quite it. Sounds like it needed more time in the oven. They should have sat with it. They should have, because let's be honest, like a lot of these shows are made. They just let's just make a season and see if people like it.
Yeah.
And they don't write with 5+ seasons in mind. So what you hope is they go, we make a great first season. And I'd love them to stop and go, we have an audience. Yeah. Let's really carefully craft our next few seasons. Now we've got the funding and the budget and the attention of everyone. Let's do that. And it's a shame when you see that not happen. And it's almost like, we've got to hit quick, go, get it out there, more.
It is a shame. And then we talked in Double Take about The Last of Us has been every 2 years.
Yeah.
And House of Dragon every 2 years.
White Lotus is quite a fast turnaround.
Yes,
and that's
but also new characters written each time.
It's true.
But you're right.
More of a clean slate.
Sometimes it happens. We'll see with season 3.
So far, it's great.
But it is disappointing. And I actually, if I was to sort of say how I would prefer it to have gone, I think the whole shift from it being a local sandwich shop, a pillar of the community, to being a fine dining restaurant, that should have been an arc over you could have done it over 5 seasons.
Right.
But they did that in 2 seasons. I think because now the show has completely changed what it is. And I'm now watching a show about fine dining, which isn't that interesting. And it also then pulls apart a lot of the things it laid very well in season 2, which is about how I'm just suddenly everyone who worked in this sandwich shop is now either a sommelier, a wonderful pastry chef, a maitre d', and I'm like, this is a little bit unbelievable that 4 of your staff are now Michelin star standard.
Yeah.
And sorry, speaking of Michelin star, that's the frustrating thing. The series begins, and in the second episode, again, great dialogue, starting very well, and Kami says, right, here's my thing. We're gonna go for a star. And I'm like, okay, great.
That's
here's
a great
the premise.
Structure for a show. Yeah.
I get it. First season was about saving the restaurant. Second one was about changing the restaurant. Third was let's go for the star. That vaporizes.
What?
That is not the dramatic momentum.
That's a great idea for another show.
It's a great idea for a show that does not drive the plot at all. And so I'm sick of it. How pouty and broody and pretentious. It's a bit pretentious. I'm sorry. It's really kind of food. Look, the magic of food. I'm like, you've missed your grounded roots of being a sandwich shop. That's what people can connect with.
You love a sandwich.
It's not just that, but do you know my point is I thought that was the whole point of Kami coming back to the shop in season 1 was you've missed.
You take the principle of fine dining and elevating food, but you apply it to stupid. Yeah,
he's also reconnecting with his home via his brother's work anyway.
Well, guys, that's a shame for fans of The Bear. As always, if you had thoughts of The Bear season 3, keep them spoiler free. Please do send them in to hello@popkitchenpodcast.com. We'd love to catch in if other people were feeling the same way.
How do you feel now, having not seen seasons 2 and 3? How do you feel about watching it?
I'm confident I might catch season 2 because I've heard so many great things. Oh, it was the best episode of telly last year, or whatever. So I would like to watch that season, but I don't think I'll jump into season 3 because it sounds like a waste of time. You would now have to watch season 4. Someone would and say, "Oh my god, it all makes sense. It came back. They brought it back off season,
and it's coming back next summer again." The wheel keeps spinning. Jesus Christ! Let it bake in the oven. Do you take it out of the oven and let it rest?
Like how it's made or what their process is, and
I don't know.
Jeremy Allen White's going to probably have quite a good career after that.
Well, look, they're already getting picked up,
he
aren't they?
did the Iron Claw. He's very good in the Iron Claw.
And Ebon is about to be in Fantastic Four.
Yeah, of course. It's huge. Well, there you go, guys. That was George's thoughts on The Bear Season 3.
It's ours.
Moving on.
Yeah, no, I'm a chef, and everything I do is every single moment is I stare and I talk about food, and I never laugh.
Order up.
Yeah, and then Sydney will be like, "Well,
It's fine to do a season of that.
It's fine to do a season. You got to change it.
Yeah.
Never does he sort of like go, "Yeah, I'm fine." You know, he doesn't hide it. You know, people use humor to hide pain.
Yeah.
They look. Walter White could be funny. Don Draper could be funny.
Yeah.
Tony Soprano could be funny. Humor is a very intrinsic, emotional
White,
device of a human being.
You know when Hank is like, WW, who do you think that is? And he goes, Walter White. And he goes, you got me. So good.
Yeah.
God, I want to rewatch Breaking Bad.
Anyway, there you go.
Moving on to House of the Dragon Season 2. Prequel set hundreds of years before Game of Thrones. As we said in the opening, it's going to be a spoiler-free episode, but there are elements of the inherent structure of the show that will probably be spoiled if you haven't seen it already. Should I just go into it?
Go.
House of the Dragon Season 2 picks up directly after the events of Season 1. After the death of Viserys Targaryen, the Targaryens, a royal house who sit on the Iron Throne, bloodline, dragon riders. You got to be a Targaryen to ride dragons. They have dragons. They are massive allegories for nuclear bombs. There are big ones, intercontinental ballistic missile ones, hydrogen bomb ones, and they rumble in the crypts of the towers of King's Landing.
Well done for getting to the end of that
Thank
sentence.
you. Yeah. Viserys Targaryen dies and leaves the rightful heir to the Iron Throne in dispute. There are two sides of the family that both have a legitimate claim to the Iron Throne. We are two factions of the family split off. Rhaenyra Targaryen with Daemon splits off to Dragonstone, and of course Aegon sits now on the Iron Throne with his brother Aemond, the villainous, skinny, enormous chin with the eye patch.
I'm a villain.
I'm a villain.
Look at me, I'm a villain.
His chin is enormous. Sometimes when you see it,
That's that actor's real chin.
I know. I'm just saying. Sometimes when the camera shoots behind it and you see it like down, you're like, Jesus, good Lord. He's very good at it.
He's terrific.
And then you've got a lady, Alicent Hightower, played by Olivia Cooke. You've got Rhaenyra Targaryen, played by Emma Darcy. Matt Smith is in there as Daemon. The main plot sense of this is that there is an exchange and a waging power struggle between who is going to be able to raise an army to either storm King's Landing or eliminate the false claims to the throne. There is a struggle of who has the most dragons, how big are they, and how is that going to ultimately play out. We got a shorter season this time round of 7 episodes, which I think was quite...
8, actually. But that doesn't matter.
Sorry, 8 episodes, which I thought was quite telling. But yeah, this is season 1, by the way, you and I really enjoyed.
Very much so.
You can listen to our review back when that finished, and I think we were broadly quite disappointed by the ending of Game of Thrones, and we're a little bit cynical ahead of this, thinking you're just trying to make more. Yeah. We didn't really believe that it could work. Lo and behold, we go into that series and we were reminded of what a great political drama Game of Thrones is. House of the Dragon is, and it just really delivered in all of those elements. But House of the Dragon season 2, George, how did you get on with it?
I mean, terrific. Absolutely terrific. What a wonderful feeling to be watching a show that from the very beginning of season 1 through to the end of season 2 is performing at the height of quality that Game of Thrones was at its peak.
Yeah.
You have... it's not the Tits and Dragons show anymore. Far less nudity, thank goodness.
My most cynical take on Game of Thrones was that if it was crap, I was like, is this just Tits and Dragons on a Sunday night?
You get more dragons, but far fewer... I'd say really little nudity, which is good because it didn't need...
There was one shot of
a
guy giving... someone giving someone else head.
in a brothel.
It's silhouetted.
Yes, but... I think it's terrific.
Less objectification.
I'm wondering. I think it's fantastic, and I think it continues to be great. I love the narrative structure actually of the show, which is this constant sort of pendulum swing between each of the two sides. Each episode you'll think, one side will just get an advantage, then the next episode, the other side will get it, like this sort of chess match. I think that's brilliant, and I'm really captivated. What Game of Thrones does very well is it brings you in and captivates you with the supporting characters really well and fills them out, whether it's Kristen Cole or like there's a moment with we're introduced to Alicent's brother, Hywyn. Owen of Hightower, Alicent's brother of Prince of Hightower, whatever his name is.
There's a lot of
played by Freddie Fox, and he's not a character we've met before. And his screen time is usually shared with other characters, and it's kind of fleeting. But typical to Game of Thrones, as we became to know it, is that there's one scene where he just talks to Alicent about what it's been like to live at Highgarden and what it's been like to be the eldest son, to therefore take on the estate of the Hightower, but to have Alicent supersede him as queen, it's a short scene, 2 minutes, but just in that moment you get enough detail about that character to feel something more complex than just one-dimensional. And they do the same with Kristen Cole, and they also do this wonderful thing where they mirror or reflect stories that are happening elsewhere within stories. So there's a nice bit where Damon's at Harrenhal for the entire series, and then we cut to a conversation between Larys, great character, Larys, the clubfoot Larys, who wants to, slither his way to the top, who's talking to Aegon, and he's talking to Aegon about his birth at Harrenhal, and it's like that story is so more well informed because what we've seen with Daemon, completely different story, but your story in Harrenhal has really informed that, and I just think it's wonderful. I think the performances are great as ever, like. Better than Game of Thrones in a way. Not only I think you've brought in, get Game of Thrones, the only sort of headline actor, established actor was Sean Bean, and obviously that was just for a certain season. And then you let the talent within grow. And I do think some of the early acting talent was a little ropey.
A little Sky original programming.
Yes, but whereas I think this has got A-star caliber.
They got all the money, all the budget,
from
all
the
the
beginning.
prestige,
So obviously you get Risa fans and Matt Smith, but like
Emma Darcy.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Emma Darcy is just so fierce and wonderful and empathetic and brilliant. I'm just like, you are totally that character.
They have this like these cat-like eyes that have like wisdom and strength and everything in it. It's just all in one.
They have this brilliant voice that sort of can be strong and fierce, but also sympathetic and kind. And then contrasted with that, I love Olivia Cook's performance because Olivia Cook's whole delivery is not mannered in the sort of old-fashioned sense of Lord Hightower, would you do this? She delivers it in a very in a sort of meter or patter that's very modern. I find in her delivery,
which really grounds it.
Really grounds it, very refreshing. Obviously, there's the whole sort of distracting factor about the ages of the characters.
Yeah.
Like once you just put that aside, it's there. But I find that really captivating. And I have one minor gripe, which is about. I love Matt Smith. I love Matt Smith, and I love Damon as a character.
He does Royal so well.
He does fantastic, and he has this whole season in Harrenhal, which is fine, and so Simon Russell Beale's in it as well. I love him as Simon Strong in this, but I'm like, I want to see Matt Smith interact with more characters. I felt him a little bit siloed,
He's
in the leaky castle,
violent, headstrong character. You want to see him humbling other people and challenging them.
But did you not feel he was like a little bit in his own side quest? And I was like, can we have him back, please?
Yeah.
But still wonderful, still engaging. And even though I think some people I've seen have been a bit disappointed by the finale, expecting something bigger. But I was reading this morning, the directors and the creators were saying, no, that will come. That is in the beginning of season 3, but we are limited on resource, and we can only deliver so much. Maybe by the writers' strike as well. Who knows? But also budgetary. And they've also announced that it's gonna be 4 seasons. That's it.
I like that announcement.
Yeah.
So on budget, there are so many more, especially in the early seasons of Game of Thrones, just detailed wides of King's Landing.
Yeah.
These like really intense graphical representations of places that don't exist. And you're like, because they've got the budget.
Yeah.
I broadly agree with like most of the things you said. I'm instantly reminded. I watched a 15-minute recap on season 1, by the way. It's a really comprehensive recap.
This is a show in which there is Rhaenys, Rhaenyra, and Rhaena.
It's like really bad.
Alaric and Eric.
Aegon, Aemond, Aerys, who they reference. It's just
the old Viserys, the young Viserys, Jaehaerys. Oh God.
It's a lot. And I was immediately reminded as soon as I started just how much of a really effective political drama Game of Thrones is. And it really, really is very good. I actually watched this with my laptop on my chest and headphones on. So the screen, it's a really unique way to watch things, but it really kind of works. And there are just lovely moments where people are having conversations in Dragonstone or King's Landing, and they're talking about the capacity and what they could do and what the threat is. And if you listen, you can hear the sounds of the dragons beneath their feet growling and rumbling. And it's this ever-present nuclear button that they really don't want to press. There's this lovely policy of mutually assured destruction where, like, no one will really use their dragon, right? No one would, but if in the case it would. I agree. The Matt Smith side project, I find using dreams as foreshadowing in films and TV show lazy writing at the best of times. I would say if you're going to do it, please do it sparingly. I do find that these things are often immediately recognizable as dreams and dream logic, and so they're not really that effective. I think there are better ways to do foreshadowing in writing, and the fact that Matt Smith's character spends a lot of the time in dream logic, having dreams that foreshadow things, I got a little bit tired of it. And the same as you, I would have rather he had done that for half the number of episodes and found himself back in with the rest of the
real
gang.
people.
So that, to me, I was like, this is a bit of a waste of time. My interest is waning. Even if you're alluding to things relating to A Song of Ice and Fire, I'm not that interested in calling back to things of the old series. I quite like what you're establishing with the new series. I think so. Here's my take. I felt like, even if these guys are saying, that's season 3, we've thought about it, it was a lot of setup without enough payoff for me.
You think?
There were a couple of really great highs for me. I think the ending of season 4 was just brilliant.
Episode
like
4,
the spectacle was just fantastic.
Fantastic,
and equally, the finale of episode 8, I thought, would just really got me going. And I got 7 and 8 actually really got me going, got me so excited. But it was just a little bit not quite enough payoff. I'm willing to give this show the benefit of the doubt because series of Game of Thrones generally have always been, we're going to really take our time. It's going to be a bit of a slow burn, but the payoffs and the highs have always been so great. So I have faith, but I did finish the season being like, could we not have just got one more episode or 2 more? Or could we not restructure your seasons a bit so you had something in season 2 to deliver? Because season 2 is very much it builds to here's where we're at and here's how it's going to go down, but you don't see it go down. That's kind of a little bit
to be continued.
It's
really.
a real to be continued. It's a very epic moment. It's very cool.
Great.
But I was a little bit like, how long have I got to wait? 2 years? Okay.
Yeah, but the thing is, I agree with you, but I'm like, I will also give it benefit of a doubt because it's like the fact that we've got a good Game of Thrones TV show again is a miracle, and I don't want to ask too much of it. I don't want it to do a bear. Take your time and do it right. And if you know that you've got a 4-season arc and you're building towards that, fine. It is a shame that we'll have to wait 2 years.
I think the characters in this one, compared to Thrones, they're a little bit less likable. They're a little bit more mopey and miserable. Game of Thrones has always been dark, but they're like, Tyrion had a lightness to him, and even, Jon Snow and Sam Tarly had a sort of more playful dynamic. And I started wondering when I was watching this, because it is a knotty political drama at its core. To me, I hold it up like any of the great political dramas when you think about all the things at play. And I think about what made Game of Thrones so successful is that it had that, and also rumbling underneath it was the threat of evil itself, of darkness, of winter and the Night King and all of that. And those two fronts playing off each other made for a really good show. And I was thinking, is this missing that element? And I actually am glad they're not touching it, and I hope they don't deal with the long night and winter. But I'm wondering, because I didn't get a payoff, is all just the whispering in the corridors and the King's Council meetings enough?
Oh, you want to have your cake and eat it. Because when we finished Game of Thrones, the main series, we were like, oh, this show used to be about whispering in corridors. And then it became about fucking epic battles. I don't know. I think trust in them.
That's the thing. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt.
It's like you wanted another episode 4. When they gave you what happened in episode 4, you
and everything is different
like
now moment. Yeah. Because you sort of built me for the
one more
next
like
4 episodes.
major character to be wiped out or something like that.
Some new sort of twist on the chessboard. But like I said, Game of Thrones has always been a slow burn. They've always rewarded your attention. All those little conversations that you would otherwise not have. They have these hour-long episodes, and it's great.
When they said they are aiming to do 4 seasons, though, I was kind of relieved at the fact that HBO has not been like, no, we want you to drag this out to be like Game of Thrones was before. Yeah. I also do think, somewhat cynically, the HBO probably said, you want a major battle sequence that's like a movie, we'll do that for you. Can we do it in the next season? Because it's easier to qualify with our financiers
Next
when we go,
financial
we've got
year.
2 seasons of great viewing figures behind us instead of 1 season. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. Oh, and the dragons look great.
Oh,
They always
I never doubted the CGI for a
It
second.
always works, and I'm listening with headphones, and when there is dragon combat or when they are, standing behind a character, I feel it.
Yeah.
I feel the sense of dread, and there's a plot point which is, in order to ride a dragon, you really can't show fear. The dragon will smell the fear, and it will just be game over. And I'm really like playing along, trying to be like, how would I do it? And they work as these nuclear bomb things that they've got at their disposal. The dragons are very effective, and I'm really glad that they do work.
I do like the again on the writing, this thing that there are characters, minor tertiary characters that are introduced early on in the episodes, and you're thinking, okay, why are we following these characters?
Yeah.
And at first it's
Same
like,
with Thrones.
and at first of all you're like, oh, this is just to add colour and texture to what's happening with the common folk and what's happening in King's Landing on the ground. And I liked it. That was enough for me. But then what's brilliant, like with all Game of Thrones, is those threads actually become quite significant to the plot that when they're pulled together, I go, oh, I see. That's why we've been spending time with these people, because it turns out,
It's like, do you remember in Game of Thrones? Actually, no, I don't want to spoil it. But you know what I'd love them to do? Not now, like let House of the Dragon finish, rest the IP, come back. I think...
Rest the IP.
Rest the IP. No, we're going to get Game of Thrones forever. Yeah. I'd really like them to do, and I don't often long for prequels, but I'd love them to do Robert Baratheon's War and the overturning of the Mad King. And Ned and Jaime Lannister and that whole saga that led into Thrones. I think that would be such a good series.
Yeah,
they obviously tell the story in the main show.
Yeah.
But
that's a direct prequel then, isn't it?
A direct prequel. So I think you let these characters age out, you cast younger versions of them, and you do Robert's Rebellion. I think it would be brilliant. And like the Lannisters' role in that.
Would you get like, what's his name, Robert Aramayo back to play the young...
Yes, I'd get Robert Aramayo back because he did a really good job in Thrones of playing the young Ned Stark. I think it would be really good. And you can play with those plot elements as well if people have seen it. I think it would be good. And I just, they make high quality shows. I have faith. And you know what? You could do a limited series. You could do one limited series.
Yeah. I actually also...
See a young Jaime Lannister. It'd be brilliant. And like, there's all these moments when Ned Stark and Jaime Lannister have these scenes where they talk about you just stood there and watched. There's no blood on your armor. It's just great.
Yeah.
Love it.
So thumbs up. Broadly, not even broadly, but thumbs up.
I think season one is stronger.
Show. Really?
Yeah.
Probably you're right,
so
actually.
too.
But also, well, I'm happy that I still am very happy that it's the quality that it is, given how that show ended and given how it's... If they continue at this level of quality and are able to pull this off for 4 consistent seasons, you could argue it's better than the original series.
I think so too, because
if they're able to keep their hand on the tiller just well enough,
I might rewatch Game of Thrones after this. It's really good.
Yeah,
it's really
it is good. But I'm
Talia's
wondering
only
how much
seen 4
how much of what I thought was good about Game of Thrones was what you were expecting to happen.
It would be my kind of third time going through it. So I watched it obviously through.
Yeah.
And then ahead of season 7, I watched it through and then finished season 7. So I've technically seen it through twice.
But I wonder how it views now you know where it's going.
Well, yeah, I know.
Because I
think it actually makes the last season worse. It'll only do that. But I think there's still a lot to
I felt like Game of Thrones, the original series, was kind of... It was like taking out a debt to the future to fuel its current. So every season was always fueled by what was to come, and that did well. And they were taking out a debt to the future. And when they got to season 7, they had to pay that debt to be like, okay, the future's here now. What are you going to do with it? And they went, oh Christ!
Oh, shit. Well, I always felt like when we got to season 5 and 6, again, I'm not spoiling anything. To me, it really felt like
when they went past the books
point
as well.
And when they were past the books, it felt like the halfway point in the story.
Yeah,
2/3 at a stretch. I was like, you've done. It doesn't feel like we're about to finish, and of course they finished. Game of Thrones, it's such ancient history now.
Whatever,
to
we're
go
back.
into it. But as always, guys, we'd love to hear your thoughts if you have any on House of the Dragon Season 2. Please keep them spoiler free. And we'll be back in probably 2 years to review House of the Dragon Season 3.
We'll create our own little box set of Season 1, Season 2, and Season 3 reviews. You can watch us age through time.
As always, hello at popkitchenpodcast.com. Should we move on to some emails?
Let's do it.
George, should we go through some of the emails that we get sent into the show every single week? As always, guys, if you wanted to send in your thoughts into the show, you can do by writing into hello@popkitchenpodcast.com, or you can support us at the VIP level on Patreon and have priority access to have your email read out on the show. Friend of the show, Mark, writes in and says, "Hi lads, it's Mark, your first official Canadian fan. I have a good one for you today. Would you rather keep only movies made before the year 2000 or ones made since 2000?
Good question, Mark.
It's a good question.
So, statistically,
There are more films.
there are more films in the 20th century versus 21st century. There are more films in the 20th century, and also the history of cinema isn't like, you kind of get the whole journey. But but the 21st century, as we just did with our recaps of the decades, a lot of our favorite films have been released in the 21st century.
But also, like, I'm going to live the majority of my life in the 21st century. Is it like, can I no longer, is it cut
cinema.
off?
Yeah.
Because I'm obviously going to continue to watch films that come out. And if I go, oh, look, I had my time with 20th century films. I saw what I saw.
Yeah.
And then just going forward, my references are.
Or is it just like
2004.
right now, you can only watch the films on a sort of right now basis?
So I can't see films in 2025. It's only the 24 years.
I think it's just more like you're locked on a desert. You're sent on a desert island, and you have a hard drive, and on that hard drive is every film released between 2000 and 2024.
So I've obviously seen more films than 21st century. So then my island objectives: do I want to watch films that I've never seen before on the desert island, or do I want the comforts of home to watch?
Do you want to research and expand your
Broadly,
mind?
I mean, I've seen films, but
Would you want to deep dive into that?
Yeah, I'd actually like more rules, Mark. I'd like more variable. I need more constraints to your question.
Again, objectively, logically, it seems that you should go for the 20th century just because of the numbers game.
Yeah.
But you're right. But maybe
Going forward, you wouldn't be able to do this show anymore.
No. That's a good question. Thanks, Mark. This next email is from Megan, who writes in and says, "Hello, James and George. Long-time listener here, second-time emailer. I love the podcast and enjoy hearing your takes on films, even when I disagree with your thoughts. I went to see Twisters last week. Twisters, which is doing very well.
Yeah.
Box office-wise, it's sort of blistering
there.
through.
People
The
are like,
storm is
yeah, I
still
like that.
raging.
It was fun. It was solid.
I mean this in a nice way. I'm like, it's mid.
Yeah.
It's a mid film.
We don't have enough of them.
I think we got
Average films.
Well, I think we got.
They're either good or bad.
Maybe. And I thoroughly had I went to see Twisters last week, and I had a thoroughly brilliant time. It had great action and unexpectedly deadly opening sequence, and in my opinion, a great soundtrack that I've been listening to since. Yes, the song that plays over the credits called Ain't in Kansas Anymore by Sarah Lambert. What a tune. A real country sort of, hell, I know I'm in Kansas anymore. Great track. I do agree with you that it did slow down for a bit in the middle when she visited blah, blah, blah. However, my friend and I's biggest issue with the movie was the teased romance with a bit of a only to pull out the last moment and not give us a On a related note, the huge debate about that online, by the way, it was a tip from Steven Spielberg to not do that. And the director took that tip because when Steven Spielberg gives you a tip,
You fucking take
you
it.
fucking take it. On a related note, what are your guys' favourite natural disaster movies? My all-time favourite definitely has to be The Impossible, starring Ewan McGregor. It's not Nicole Kidman, actually. Sorry, it's Naomi Watts, the other Australian actor.
Yeah.
And a young Tom Holland given an amazing performance. It always makes me cry at the end when the brothers humming a lot. This one. Sirens on my end in Cornwall. Megan. Well, Megan, thank you for your email. We talked about disaster movies on Double Take.
Yes, we did.
A few weeks ago. We actually ran through the entire genre and every single conceivable type of disaster movie there was, from volcanoes to asteroids to floods to tornadoes to everything. So I'm not sure if you're on the Patreon, check it out there.
I also said that The Big Short was a disaster movie. A financial disaster movie.
And he's so proud of it.
You've said natural disaster, so I guess Independence Day wouldn't count. But are aliens not of the natural world? Where do we
natural
have to be
would
like
be
a
like
volcano, earthquake,
wildfire.
tsunami,
Yeah, I think
fire, the core. Matthias writes in and says, "Hi James and George and James.
Hi.
First of all, big congrats on the Patreon. I'm loving Double Take and really enjoyed your view on the casting of RDJ for Doctor Doom. Guys, that was last week's Double Take. We reacted to that. So much to say. By the way, I've heard his paycheck is bigger than his Infinity War Endgame paycheck.
I knew what you were going to say. That is bigger than his. Yeah, I bet.
Mad.
I bet.
Madness.
The truck is beeping up now.
Yeah.
And where do you want me to put this?
Oh, and apparently
Pulls all
he insisted, this is rumours, but it was heavily reported that he was the one that insisted on the Russo brothers directing. was one of his. So apparently he wanted a private jet, wanted like a private compound within the production, like just loads of diva celebrity shit, and he was like pushing for the Russo brothers to do it.
Fair.
Just fair enough.
Fair on the Russo brothers, maybe not fair on the private mansion.
Do you think they all just got together for a coffee and were like, should we just hijack this shit?
Yeah.
It's our fucking MCU.
It's a coup.
Do you know what I mean?
It's the RDJ coup.
Yeah, there's like a whole Succession series
It's
about
like the
him
Mad
coming
King.
back.
Overthrow. Kevin Feige's there like, burn them all. They're like, I'll take it.
I would personally very much like it if this turns out to be a Tony Stark variant who's gone rogue, because I think it would otherwise be quite jarring and would confuse a lot of the more casual MCU viewers. To take George's side, however, the official Instagram of Marvel Studios did mention that he was cast as Victor Von Doom, but the MCU being what it is, I wouldn't be surprised if it's simply a red herring. I remember the Infinity War trailer all too well. Yeah, you were sort of saying that they're not going to ref Tony Stark.
The internet is split on this point. I thought, yeah, my opinion is...
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. I'm kind of climbing down from it a little bit now because who knows? But my opinion was that he's cast as Victor Von Doom. He is just the actor Robert Downey Jr. playing Victor Von Doom. I don't think they'll ever interact with his face. I think he'll have a mask on, and it's like,
I think that's crazy. I think he's definitely.
I don't know. I
Why
think it's
bring him
crazy
back?
because I think it's
Why then have him
for the headline. I think it's more interesting to be like, Tony Stark is done. We all love Robert Downey Jr. the
That's
actor.
so strange, though.
Let's give Robert Downey Jr. the actor one of the biggest, plumbingest, great villain roles. He's played the greatest hero of the MCU.
They're going to do it to
the
pluck on your
villain.
heartstrings. They're going to kill Tony Stark again. I don't know what they're going to do.
I would prefer it this way. If they tried to just be like, oh, it's actually Tony Stark.
Well, I prefer it just didn't.
Oh my
I
God.
prefer it just was done.
What was done,
ultimately.
actually.
So actually,
I like the boldness to say, no, this is about the role. This isn't about Tony Stark.
I only agree with you if he doesn't take off the mask. But I don't think you could do 5 hours of Avengers film and have him not take the mask
and
off.
pay him that much money. And I think if he does take off the mask and they look him in the face and no one says, you look a bit like Tony Stark, then yeah, that is ridiculous.
Insane.
You never. Sorry, Victor Von Doom. Sorry, you never get.
You
You
look at my
are the
phone.
spit.
Do you
know this guy? You look just like
before we
Cap. Unbelievable.
You're gonna get Thor's not gonna believe
Have you
this.
been to Earth?
Oh.
You been to Earth? Oh my God. Wow. Pepper Potts. You're not gonna believe
I know
this.
you're really
Guess
sad,
what I'm
but
here with?
Get the girl. I wanted to write in regarding your thoughts on. Oh, you can go check more of our thoughts on Double Take. I wanted to write in regarding your opinions on Deadpool and Wolverine. Sirens on our end.
Sirens.
That was like a confused siren. I completely agreed with your reviews on the film. You can check out our review from last week. Exactly like James mentioned, for me, the opening hour or so of the film was by far the best part, with some unforgettable moments like the opening credits and, of course, However, fantastic fan service aside, I found myself to be a bit bored as well. Something about two characters who are basically immortal fighting each other and/or others simply doesn't have really have any excitement after a while, which I especially felt during the third act battle, which I thought so too. I also felt the plot point where there was just for the story of joining an MCU. On the other hand, this movie and its cameos really were a dream come true for fans of comic book movies in general. If you're somebody who loosely follows the news, rumors, etc. regarding these movies, this one's made for you and should definitely be enjoyed with your fellow fans on the big screen. Keep up the great work as always, and I hope you guys enjoyed the big film quiz. I'd very much like to make it to one of the hopefully future editions. Kind regards, Matthias.
Thank you, Matthias. Thank you very much. This next email is from Robbie, who writes in and says, "Hi guys, Robbie from Swansea here. I want to start off by jumping in on your biscuit debate. I can't believe neither of you mentioned a hobnob.
Hobnobs are good.
Hobnobs are great.
Yeah,
great.
they're
Chocolate
great.
hobnob's great as well.
Yeah,
But actually,
fantastic.
I would take a plain one because
See,
it has
I'd
the
rather
saltiness.
Oh, yeah.
You don't like plain hobnob?
I'd rather chocolate.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we're only human.
Yeah.
But I wonder. A hobnob is a great dunker, oat based, lovely. You go on to say, I was listening to the most recent episode of The Rest is Entertainment, released 29th of July. And they were discussing the influx of movie reboots and remakes recently. Roadhouse, The Fall Guy. Yeah, The Fall Guy is technically a reboot of a series in the 1980s, but
Loose.
who's walking around going,
Oh yeah, of course the reboot.
oh yeah, I've been itching
Yeah,
for a
about
reboot
time.
of The Fall Guy.
Now I'll go to the cinema.
Yeah, they discussed the use of reboots as a possible gateway to the original movies. What is your view on all these remakes? Do you think they risk the legacy of the originals? The segment also included a list of reboots in the works, which included The Matrix. I feel like The Matrix is always being rebooted. Like it's always being talked about being rebooted. Are you both big fans of this movie? I'm curious to hear your views on this.
Well, in one sense,
yeah.
literally it brings stuff back, and you went to go and see Twister. We talked about it on the show.
Same with Top Gun.
Star review. Same with Top Gun. But ultimately, they do have the capacity to taint and ruin
Yeah.
the things that came before, make them feel less special,
Yeah.
change the appreciation for them. And also, sometimes you see these films in a modern setting, remastered, the romantic, dewy version of what you thought that film was becomes slightly tainted.
Yeah.
So yes and no, to be honest with you.
I agree. It's like you can do great legacy sequels, but there's a very funny TikTok I saw recently of a guy who is doing a sketch of himself where he says, yeah, let's watch a movie tonight, but I want to watch only something. I want to watch something that came out this year, but I only something that's new, not based on the original IP. And he's like,
I saw that.
Or he's like, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes sequel, sequel, thingy prequel, and it's very funny, but also very depressing when you realise
There's no new IP.
There is no new IP.
And the new IP is meant to spawn off a bunch of sequels and franchises.
Did you see Vince Vaughn talking about something that was great, where he was like, how everyone's obsessed with IP at the moment.
Yeah.
And he's like, but when like John Hughes was making when John Hughes was making 80s movies, teen movies in the 80s, the IP was just a girl turning 16. That was the universal experience of turning 16 as a teenage girl. That was strong enough to hook people in.
Yeah.
That was an IP all in of itself. But people now think, no, it's not about universal experiences that hook people in. It's about a product, a brand name that we're familiar with.
Yeah, I was speaking to someone else about how like the Seth Rogen Stoner Bro comedy movies were everywhere in the late 2010s, and then they just disappeared.
Yeah.
And it's almost like culturally those came at a really good time because it was approaches to like weed and alcohol. It managed to get the teenage audience, but also the grown-up audience, and he was a grown-up laughing at it. It was funny. But someone also made a point, like he was kind of in his own franchise though. You were ultimately coming for the Seth Rogen show and co.
Yeah.
And it kind of became its own thing that eventually got stale.
Yeah.
But if you think about that, like his films, you haven't really seen something from him in a really long time.
Long Shot, I think, was the last
With
one.
Charlize Theron. I've heard that's quite
2019.
good.
It's okay. Do you know what? There's a much smarter film within that film.
Yeah.
Basically, tangent now. He plays a political journalist who...
Yes, yeah.
Have you seen it?
I think I've seen it, and I think
There's a running Game of Thrones plot within it, which is bizarre actually. Like,
Right.
and don't if you haven't seen Game of Thrones, don't watch Long Shot because they spoil like season 7. So anyway, but that movie's about Seth Rogen playing a political journalist who sort of shadows someone running for Congress, something major political position, and they sort of have this kind of dysfunctional relationship strike up. And I'm like, this would be much funnier if he was a really whip-smart, sharp political journalist, and they have this kind of war of minds, and then their intelligence, like
basically wasn't played by Seth Rogen.
yeah, but instead it's like I write for like the equivalent of Gawker online, and like, oh god, anyway. I'm sorry, I haven't finished. Anyway, Robbie goes on to say, I haven't yet seen Deadpool, but I have been put off.
Oh, okay.
Already, clips and scenes of the movie have surfaced on social media, which I've tried to avoid. I am astounded at how much incredible-looking footage from the actual film is already online.
I like the day after I saw it was seeing on my YouTube homepage thumbnail screenshots of moments that were massive spoilers. I'm glad I saw
which I've tried to avoid, but it's sometimes a struggle. One of the strengths of the first Deadpool movies, in my opinion, is the fact that it was very distinct and different from the Marvel movies. From the clips I have seen, the new Deadpool looks much more Marvel-y. I'm aware that this is an attempt to bring Marvel into the MCU, but this is resulting in Deadpool losing his novel edge. Is this the case, or does it still stand on its own apart from the MCU? Keep up the great work, Robbie. P.S. Hope the quizzes were a great success. Any plans for a movie quiz outside of London? Watch this space. Unlikely just because of the fact we're based here. Yeah. Sorry, but not no forever, but not in the near future.
No current plans.
What do you think? Sorry, I was just on Deadpool in the MCU. Like, has he lost his edge? A little.
I don't think he lost his edge. I think he was pretty cutting, but I don't see a place for him outside of his own film. He's not going to turn up in Cap 4.
No.
Or if they want to do another Taika Waititi style,
he'll be in one of the Avengers films.
Yeah.
If only for a scene, as you said.
They'll drag him in.
Just on what we said last week, I don't think you mentioned. You think they're going to bring the Fox X-Men back? I think that whole era is sunsetted now.
I think it's done.
I know no one stays away forever, but I think the Halle Berry, James Marsden has been sunsetted. And I'm like, if they want to do X-Men now, they'll be wanting to build their own X-Men characters, their own X-Men actors. I think that's done now. I think they've drawn a line under, except for Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I think they're done.
I would be, because they brought back who they did just recently. I don't think you can safely say you're not going to see McAvoy, Fassbender. I agree. It would be better if you just started.
Unless that is the last throw of the dice for the multiverse wars.
Yeah.
It's like, now the multiverse saga is over.
Let's close all the variants.
Yeah,
Earth 1 is the one.
Yeah.
Just take the TV. I think the TVA is really cool, but it's
too.
breaking everything.
Yeah.
We can't keep going. There's another version of the character, and another. It just doesn't quite work. Andres writes into the show and says, "Hey guys, Andy here from Argentina, writing again."
Could it be Andre?
Andre?
I might go for Andre.
Andres.
I might go for Andre.
Hi guys, Andy here from Argentina writing again. I recently saw Deadpool and Wolverine and thoroughly enjoyed it. The cameos were great and Wolverine's costume, especially blah blah blah, was amazing. However, I felt that the first half hour or hour relied too heavily on real world references and jokes. The frequent use of real names, literal Disney Fox references, the Gossip Girl nod, Paul Rudd's reference, Mad Max, among others, pulled me out of the fictional world and back into reality, not accomplishing what you would want in a superhero movie, which I think is to submerge in the story and their reality. While I appreciate Deadpool's signature blend of humor and pop culture nods, I think the excessive use of this device detracted from the plot. That being said, I acknowledge that many fans, myself included, watch Deadpool specifically for its irreverent humor and self-aware wit. So, while the abundance of jokes and cameos might have been a distraction for me, I understand its appeal to others. Look forward to hearing your spoiler thoughts on the film. Love the podcast. Hugs and kisses.
Spoiler thoughts out if you want to go listen to those and our review last week. I think
I disagree.
I like the real world references.
It just about works. It's the best parody and spoof of the MCU.
And actually, that for me helps to distinguish it from other Marvel stuff, which is very much in its own little world.
Yeah.
I like having pop culture references. So I'm like, yeah, this is kind of just building a bridge to the audience there.
One of my
I don't want it in all my Marvel films.
No.
But in this one, I don't mind. It's the same, like they did it in Guardians as well.
Yeah. My favorite line is when like he first has an interaction with Matthew McFadden and he just goes, "Hold one sec," runs away, grabs the camera, pulls the mic down. It's like, "Listen, fucks, eat shit. I'm in Disney World. Go to Disney World, bitch."
Fuck it, I'm going to Disneyland.
Yeah, it's really funny.
And this last email is from Craig. Craig writes in to say, "Hey both, listening to your chat on watching films on mute in the cinema reminded me of something. Many years ago, a friend and I went to see A Quiet Place, the first one. This is obviously a very quiet film, so we prepared ourselves for
They
it.
can be quite loud films.
Okay, yeah, they can be quite loud.
The
particularly
Day
the new
One is a loud film. Anyway.
The opening sequences of the film goes ahead as intended with the having watched the film again, sometimes so the opening sequence of the film goes ahead as intended with the event that happens in the first one. Having watched the film again sometime later, I know the next scene is everyone at their homestead doing chores and being very quiet. What we didn't realise was that after that first scene, the film cut to black for what we thought was a change of scene. But a further 10 minutes went by with a completely black screen with only the sounds of breathing and mouth sign language words. Only after these 10 minutes did someone walk out of the theatre.
Oh my God.
My fellow member of staff to tell us the projector had an issue and the screening was cancelled. So they thought
it's a quiet place, you know.
They just lost the vision.
Oh,
It was like,
how smart!
Listen,
of course, you eliminate the visual.
John Krasinski, how avant-garde. We had essentially been watching the quietest film going with no visuals, which made following the plot challenging. You're basically they can't even whisper to each other. Imagine listening to that, no vision. Would not recommend. As an alternative, we were offered an alternative screening, so we just went out to the next film showing we just went out to watch the next film showing, which was Rampage. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
White
seen it,
gorilla movie.
Yeah, Albino gorilla.
In IMAX starring The Rock, and that was a complete audio-visual clusterfuck. Not what we were looking for, but we always have a laugh about it. Thanks, Craig. That's a funny email. That's a funny experience. I'm loving the recent funny experiences people had in cinemas with a fight and like the
you realise how dependent you are on your local cinema just delivering the goods of good quality sound and visuals and respect amongst everyone else. Otherwise, it really just does kill it for everyone.
Yeah, but also it's the one thing they expect them to do right.
Yeah,
right.
It's kind of like how when the Zone of Interest started and he plays sound but doesn't put a visual up for like maybe 90 seconds, and we're there going, of course, train me to use my ears.
That's the Zone of Interest.
That was an impression of the Zone of Interest
Mickey Levy score for the Zone of Interest.
Moving on, George, those were the emails. Thank you, of course, to everyone who sent in an email. Shall we finish with a game? Okay, George, as always, Pulp Kitchen ends
with a game.
We loved playing this at the quiz. We had to rest it on the show because we were just running out of sounds.
I will say, at the quiz, we played 2 sound rounds.
Yeah.
and watching people's expressions. And I said to someone on the second night, oh, by the way, before I forget, quiz. If you're the guy who came on the first night and you were wearing the Talking Heads Remain in Light t-shirt
that
I said to you, I said, that's a great t-shirt, and you said, I thought you would. Please, could you let me know where you got that t-shirt
George
from?
would like the
because
t-shirt.
I'd really like to get that t-shirt. I forgot to ask. You'd walked away before I could follow up the question. If that was you, I didn't remember your name.
Yeah.
Please contact us.
One guy gave it to the other guy as a gift.
No, that's the vinyl. That was
the vinyl,
that was another Talking Heads related thing that happened the following evening, right? But this was a guy wearing the Remain in Light t-shirt. If that was you, anyway. But with the sound game, I remember saying to one guy, like, "Oh yeah, don't worry. There's the second sound games round's coming up, and I chose these ones." And he was like, "Oh, but George, your ones are so much harder." And I was like, "Oh, really?" Anyway, it was great fun.
I remember I was going around before the quiz start, and I spoke to a friend of the show, Oliver.
Yes.
And he was just like saying hi, and he was like, you can play the sound game. I was like, yes, we've got 2 rounds on each. He was like, can't wait. I was like, are you enjoying the sound game? He was like, love the sound game.
Yeah.
Love it. Got 6 sounds for you today, George.
All right, we're back in business.
You guys don't know. You have to guess the film from the sound clip. It could be a line of dialogue, could be a moment from the score, could be a sound effect, could be anything. And before some time, he's got to tell me what film they belong to.
Well done for you for having the brain space to think of 6 more sounds.
It was a little bit of
I feel like that meme, you know that meme that's like...
Sirens on Our Own.
Sirens on Our Own. Have you seen that meme which is like, I don't have another password left in me?
Yeah.
I feel like that. Like, I don't have another sound left in me.
Sirens on Our Own. Excuse me. Whoa. Let that run out. These start, as always, I think a little bit easier and they get a little bit harder. You should get this first one. He's going to shut the door. You should get this first one based on just, the state of things. That's all I'll say. But please do play along at home. George, are you ready for your first sound?
I am.
You have to guess the film from this sound. Ready?
Yeah.
Living from day to day, moving from place to place, with no memory of who or what you are. Shut up. Give me a chance. I may be able to help you find some answers.
Born Identity?
No.
Born? Any of the Borns?
No.
Is that Ian McKellen's voice? I know he's not in
Oh,
that.
you're close.
Patrick.
Yeah.
X-Men.
Yes.
That's fine.
1.
X-Men 1.
Yes.
He's talking to Wolverine.
Yeah, one more time.
I don't think Ian McKellen's in the Born Identity, but I just suddenly was
No.
like, same period.
I'm like, 'cause obviously Wolverine, X-Men. I'm like, I've seen X-Men 1 maybe once, but I've seen 2 and 3 maybe a handful of times. And I'm almost like, are they good? Should I jump in? Maybe next time I'm sick, should I watch Bryan Singer's X-Men?
I've got to flip round for you. I had X-Men 1 on DVD.
Yeah.
Used to watch that all
And
the
a
time
video,
with friends
mate.
come over. And actually, it's like, it's quite sparse. Like
2000 it came
Not
out.
a lot of stuff happens in
Yeah.
it. I saw X2 in the cinema once. It's the only time I've seen it.
Yeah.
And I watched X3 on a website called Divx.
Yes, of course.
In 2007
Yeah.
on TV Links. Do you remember TV Links?
Yes. Do you remember
When I was-
Mega Video?
Yeah, it was same.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
watched it on that when I was 13 in like 5 different parts.
Yes.
Piracy is a crime, don't get me wrong, but like, yeah.
But yeah, that was X-Men 1. One more time for people at home.
Living from day to day, moving from place to place, with no memory of who or what you are. Shut up. Give me a chance. I may be able to help you find some answers.
It's Wolverine turning up at the school, and the rest of the X-Men are introduced in quite an unremarkable way. Yeah. But Professor X is like, this is Storm, this is Cyclops, and he's like, right, what do they call you? Wheels? It's quite a funny.
Couldn't do that now. That's... I've forgotten he says that.
Yeah.
That's
What do they call you?
outrageous.
Wheels? I think Rogue is there as well.
That's what you got to do, Baldy.
Oh, moving on to our next sound. You have to guess the film from this sound.
Check this out. I don't know, all right? So these are black Jews, all right? They're stranded in the middle of Ethiopia. It's deep. Stranded? Yeah, look, they got nothing. They don't got cars, they don't got. And I'm watching this, and I'm like, what the are these guys wearing? Look.
That is, of course, Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems.
Yes.
I wanted, for a sound game a few weeks ago, to get the sound of the door that keeps,
that'd be
the alarm
great.
door.
Yeah.
But I couldn't find an actual piece of it to clip.
Fine, yeah.
But yeah, great. I mean, unmistakable.
film.
He's fantastic.
Adam
in that
Sandler
movie.
manages to be still annoying in every film, but in a different way.
Yeah.
Best Adam Sandler
I like Adam
performance.
Sandler as a guy.
He's really. Oh yeah. Sorry, I mean like his films now are objectively annoying.
Oh, you mean when like the Ridiculous Six, and,
Whatever,
and
yeah.
sure, but
Yeah.
but when he does good stuff,
Yeah.
like Uncut
Like-
Gems or
I don't. He needs to continue his Steve Carell style transition into
yeah.
great Hollywood. I want to see the next 2, 3, 4 films from Sandler because
Oh,
you
yeah.
haven't seen Uncut Gems, guys. It's a heart attack of a film, but
Yeah.
see Adam Sandler like you've never seen him before, by all means. That's the scene where he's showing the basketball player the opal.
Yeah,
And she was like, look at these
Garnett,
guys,
he's
they're
in the-
Ethiopian Jews,
Yeah.
and they that's it, that's your opal.
yeah, KG.
They got the glittery.
Yeah.
I love the dirty film present stock they use.
Yeah.
Everything just looks like it's been.
What I
left
love about
under a car.
Safdie brothers movies is their supporting cast of like often real world people from New York.
Yes, yeah.
Is so accurate. So like the guy he goes to place a bet with, who's stood in the kitchen hotel or something. I'm just like, yeah, you're clearly like not an actor.
Yeah.
No, you just
You're
look like a
person.
real world person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They shot on the streets of New York in a lot of their films, often without permits. Great. Are you ready for your next sound? Do you have to guess the film from this sound?
You let me down? I don't care. Let me make one thing clear to you. I am not your father. You are not my friend. This is a business. You are only as good to me as the money you make.
Kevin Spacey.
Yes.
One more time, please.
You let me down? I don't care. Let me make one thing clear to you. I am not your father. You are not my friend. This is a business. You are only as good to me as the money you make.
So not American Beauty?
No.
Horrible Bosses.
No.
When did he make money? God, I haven't seen a Spacey film in such a long time. What did he make money with people in?
Oh, come on. It's on the tip of your tongue.
It's not obviously it's not Usual Suspects. What's a big Spacey film? What's he got iconic? Glenn Ross?
No.
Damn it. I'm going to go for Naughty's Spacey.
Oh, yeah, it's Naughty's.
God. I've seen it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you have. We've probably...
It's not Bug's Life, is it?
No,
he
that
is-
would be a good
yeah.
twist because he's Hopper. I don't think we've talked about it really.
Give it to me. What was it?
It is from 21.
Oh, yeah.
So when you said what film does Kevin Spacey make money in, I was like, that's basically it.
Yeah, with Jim Sturgis.
He plays the sort of slightly nasty Harvard professor who coaches these kids into counting cards. A solid film, actually, 21.
Opens with MGMT's Time to Pretend. That's what I remember.
Yes,
It's a
yeah.
very 2008, 2009 movie.
I had it on DVD.
Yeah. Yeah, not a bad movie.
No, it's not that bad. It's actually quite fun. It's a fun concept. Like
Yeah.
Harvard kid. Was it based on a true story?
No. I doubt it. I don't know. I've only seen it once. I probably watched
smart Harvard
I
kids
probably
should do
watched
that.
it on Sky Movies in 2010.
Yeah, that makes sense. That checks. All right, George, are you ready for your next sound?
Let's go.
Because it's hard. You were thinking of Kevin Spacey movies, when actually Kevin Spacey doesn't front
Yes.
many films, especially post.
Well, I said Horrible
2010.
Bosses. That was a
Yeah,
bit of a
yeah,
pull,
horrible
wasn't it?
bosses. Yeah. Okay. You ready for your next sound? You have to guess the film from this sound.
Horrible.
Horrible. Apologies for such distressing
Initially,
scenes.
I wanted to say The Hunger Games.
Okay, so you've got a very key element of the guessing there.
Donald Sutherland, Jennifer Lawrence, dystopian.
It's a film you know.
Avatar.
Film you've seen. No. But I've taken a scene which is obscure, but is enough going on there that you could figure it out. Everything's awful.
12 Years a Slave.
No.
Christ. A horrible clip. That's The Sound of Life. Do you hear what that is? I thought initially...
This is a very serious film that you and I don't take seriously.
Oh. Because it's not good?
Yeah.
Oh, we don't think it's very good.
No.
And it takes itself very seriously.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Recent?
Not really.
Because I heard Donald Sutherland and Jennifer Lawrence
Right,
in
so-
Hunger Games. Mother.
Yes, Mother. Yeah, you got Jennifer Lawrence instantly. So
Yes.
if you've seen Mother, there's a horrible. She's like, "What are you doing? Why are you here?" She has a baby at one point,
Oh,
and
Christ, she
they take the
does, doesn't
baby
she?
and they hold up. She's like, "Stop, please!" And they rip the baby and they eat it. And then she finds the she starts screaming. She sees remains of her baby.
God, I'd forgotten that. What a
Yeah,
horrible.
but it was enough. Like everything's awful. Mother.
Yeah, no more, thank you. But
Yeah.
I'm glad. Isn't it funny? I could tell her screaming, even though it
Yes.
obviously wasn't Donald Sutherland.
She has
but-
a raspy. Ah. Are you ready for your second last sound? You have
Yes.
to guess the film from this sound.
So never refuse an invitation. Never resist the unfamiliar. Never fail to be polite.
Gentlemen, that was excellent.
And never outstay your welcome.
That's Leo.
Yes.
Club crime. Never outstay your
Club Crime, released in 2007, starring Leo
He's
DiCaprio.
trying to be a crime. So initially I was like Gatsby. No. Then it's not The Wolf of Wall Street. No. And then it sounds like he's giving tips like you would in like to another criminal, to be like never outstay your welcome. Departed.
No. Shall I play it for you again?
Cool. What Leo? Yeah, go on then.
So never refuse an invitation. Never resist the unfamiliar. Never fail to be polite.
Gentlemen,
I've got it.
that was excellent.
And never outstay your welcome.
Got it. Classic noughties
Yeah,
music.
got
there.
it. That is the beach.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
the opening
It's
scene.
snake
It's a
blood.
voiceover. He's not giving advice. Like, and he says, "You want to do a shot of snake blood?" And he's like, "Snake blood? Well, that'll do."
Yeah.
And he's sort of giving his advice, his tips for travel. He's like, "Why do they come all the way over here for all the comforts of home?" And then it's just shot of what I bet are real life fat tourists watching like the England game.
Yeah.
in Bangkok.
God, I've seen that such a long time. I watched that
Yeah.
just before I went to Thailand as well.
Oh, cool.
As you do.
And then sort of the noughties,
Yeah.
90s, dark nightclub.
That
raw,
film ends
edgy.
with him. Well, I mean, it's not really a spoiler, but there's
Terrible
an
ending.
epilogue of that film where he goes to an internet cafe and in Bangkok, and nothing dates that film like the computers in the internet
Oh,
cafe
yeah.
with the sort of orange plastic monitor on it. Yeah,
Great first half of that film completely falls apart. The
God,
beach
I haven't seen it such a long time.
really falls apart. Okay, ending with one that's a little bit more niche, a little bit more tricky, a little bit more obscure, more vague, but achievable. You have to guess the film from this sound. Ready?
Foreman says that you're ambidextrous.
No, that's untrue.
You can't write with both hands.
My teachers tried to make me when I was a kid, but I couldn't. I'm left-handed.
He also said that you made statements about killing school children.
That is horrible. That's a horrible thing to say.
So you aren't angry about being fired from Valley Springs for touching your students.
A little bit of a longer one there.
Dark as well.
It is
Is
dark.
that John Carroll Lynch?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, which doesn't narrow things down, but you can do this now.
Is that Changeling?
No.
The Lovely Bones?
No. You're really barking up the right tree. It's a long clip.
Prisoners?
You're going to get it.
Prisoners?
No, but you're really barking up the right tree. No, you should get it. John Carroll Lynch is the only clue that will help you there.
It's not Shutter Island.
No, but you're really barking up the right tree. You said literally all the other films in that era or category that would be the answer, apart from the one. It's a film we both like. It's a good film. Obviously, John Carroll Lynch. You ready?
Go on then.
That is from Zodiac. Oh! Which you literally said, Changeling, Prisoners, all these other films apart from Zodiac. But still, Mark Ruffalo's in there, but he doesn't speak in that clip.
Big movie I need to rewatch.
Yeah.
I've seen it once, enjoyed it, but I need to rewatch
It's like
it.
2 hours, 45 minutes, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
but
long.
I know that's held up as one of Fincher's best.
It is really good. It is really, really good. Downey Jr., Jake Gyllenhaal. But it's tough.
Good one. I'm glad.
But I
I'm-
thought
that-
I thought with Carol Lynch you could probably get that, because I remember when we did underrated actors, we put John Carroll Lynch, and one of the images we put was him in that scene of him being interrogated.
Yeah.
He's a janitor, and he's being interrogated, and everything about him has evidence. He's wearing a Zodiac watch, and his alibi is terrible. And he's like, "Oh, there was the knives in my car that were covered with blood. That's because I slaughtered a chicken." And they're like, "What blood? What knives? Oh, you didn't see that?" And they're like, no, but we're going to look into that. He just sounds so guilty. He's one of the best suspects they have for who would be the Zodiac killer. Tough.
Well done.
I thought when you got John Carroll Lynch, I was like, oh my God, he's going to get it.
I feel happily defeated by that one. It was bigger than me.
Yeah.
I couldn't get it. It's
Well
tough.
done.
Good
Apologies
ones. Apologies for the really traumatic, dark subject matter.
Babies being eaten and children being killed. We've gone through our safe ones, our happy ones. Guys, thank you so much for listening. That was the sound game. Thank you so much for spending your time with us, and thank you for listening to this episode of Pulp Kitchen. Don't forget, we post new episodes of this show every single Wednesday.
And also our big monthly thank you to our VIPs who support us on Patreon, our VIP tier. That's a big thank you to Steve, Shane, Saf, Matthew, Laura, Kieran, James, Harry, and Eden. Thank you very much for supporting us. We really appreciate it. And don't forget, you guys have priority access to get your emails sent in. We'd love to read out your thoughts, so please continue to do that. And also, as already mentioned in today's episode, thank you to our producers, Aidan and Finn.
Guys, thank you. As always, speaking of Patreon, if you've ever enjoyed the stuff that we do and you want to figure out the best way to help support us, it really is Patreon. That makes the biggest difference to what we do here. We're doing loads of fun content on there. Double Take is a really, really fun show. It's more me and George, more news, more trailers, more discussion, more predictions.
Yeah.
Please go and check that out if you haven't already. And if this is working on the Spotify subscription, please do subscribe to us on Spotify as well.
It's been wonderful having you listening to us today. I've enjoyed it. You've made me feel better.
Yeah, you did great.
I've poked up. I will crash as soon as
you'll power down. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But I love doing this. And even as I was packing my bag today, even though I felt rotten, I thought
you walked
still
very
nothing
slowly.
else. Still nothing else I'd rather be doing.
My task for you guys to spread the show is to just subtly drop us elusively in conversation. Yeah, I actually saw an interesting film last week that the guys on Pulp Kitchen told me about.
Yeah.
It was hang on, what were we talking about? Oh, the film I saw last week. No, before that. You said it was recommended where?
Yeah.
Oh, what? No. You said no. Hey, listen to me.
What did you say?
Listen to me. You said a thing.
I said,
what is it? Oh, what you mean, Pulp Kitchen?
I just drop it in even more forcefully. Be like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's so Pulp Kitchen. Yeah. What did you say, Gary? What was that?
Let's be this whispery thing that people are just somehow talking about.
Like we want it to be like in House of the Dragon, where the small folk, not the small folk, but I mean like the people of King's Landing, hear the rumors about Pulp Kitchen before you know it. The Eamon's up in his high tower being like, I've heard the rumours about Pulp Kitchen, the small folk talking about this, the dragons murmur about the pub quiz they did last year.
I want Matt Smith to have a trippy vision, and it's just us two.
Have you seen the way he swaggers when he walks?
Oh, yeah,
he's got a real sort of, I'm going to be walking with my sword now, Rory. Sorry, every time I see him, I just think of Doctor Who. Amy?
Of course, cracks in time,
spaces, time and line, space.
Amelia Pond, you
were the kid that was. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us. Have a great week. See you next week.
Bye. Guys.